Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling journal. Today we're going to do the world's easiest journal page ever, just using two collage images and a poem. So the collage images I'm using today are from Natalie May Scrapbooking, and this first one is amazing. It's called The Raven. So I'm just trimming it out. This is going my 6x6 journal page. I'm just trimming up the extra edges so it'll fit in. I've cut off this chunk at the bottom and I'm not going to throw it away because I'm going to use that to finish it off. So I'm going into my journal and just being really generous with the gel medium and gluing it over on the background, and then going back over the entire page with gel medium again, just to make sure I've got a really good seal on it. With that dark edge, I decided to put it on the back or on the edge where I didn't have any, and it sort of gives me a bit of a border at the edge. The second collage sheet I'm using is again from Natalie May, and it's one called Aurora, I think, Aurora. And it's just this really beautiful image of this girl. I did decide to keep the moon in her hair because I thought it actually just fitted in really nicely. And I'm just going to again glue that straight down. Now, quite often when I'm gluing over something that's got texture in the background, I will put a little bit of white gesso in the background just to make sure that that really becomes a focal image. Because it's quite wet, probably if you do it with a sponge, it's going to be less bleed through, but I've just used a brush, and you can see me just wiping off a little bit of the excess gesso that came through. Again, because it's me, I didn't really, it didn't really make any difference, but if I had a little bit of white coming through, it would have been fine. I don't panic about all that stuff too much, but you can sort of see by just having that little bit of white in the background, it makes the image a little bit more opaque and it stands out from the background. While it's still mostly dry, I'm just going around and trimming the edges. I like to do this before I sort of continue, just so I've got a really good sense of what the page actually looks like, how much room I've got to play with. Sometimes my eyes get a bit tricky and I think I'm actually working on my page when really I'm not. I'm just going in and adding a little bit of extra colour using my Stabilo All pencils in red and blue, and then using my wet wipe just to wipe it out a little bit and soften it. You can use a paintbrush for it, but wet wipes work just as well. I had one sitting there anyway, so I decided to use it. I also, in the hair, just put a bit of a blue tint to it, just so it sort of gets that blue-black feel to it. Once I've done that, then I'm going in with some white ink and spritzing it in the background and all over my iPad. Again, this is sort of to give a bit of a grungy effect to it, but also sort of that starlight in the background. And you've still got this gorgeous raven popping up. Going with a little bit of black too, just again to give a little bit of extra detail to her hair, a little bit of few of the wispy hairs coming off and so on. It just makes me feel I've actually done something in this page, because really I haven't done all that much at this stage. I also put in a little bit of gold and I think a little bit of silver, again just to get that sort of reflective nature happening in what's going on the page. I did use my black a little bit as well, just to outline the edge and to push it out from the background just that little bit more. So it really sort of stood out, give her a bit of an extra cat's eye on her makeup. I then was just going to stop with this and just put Nevermore on, which is the last word of the Edgar Allan Poe poem Raven, or The Raven. But I decided that I'd actually write some of the poem onto the sheet too, in that sort of space where the bird is. Um, I'm not a horror or gothic person, but I did teach last year a unit on um, gothic narrative to my grade 8s, and I actually really enjoyed it, reading The Beating Heart and The Raven and so on. I think I enjoyed the unit more than the children did, but that's neither here nor there. Uh, I certainly learned a lot about literature that I hadn't learnt before, which was good. So I didn't actually learn the poem off by heart though, so I did have to look it up so I could write it down. I'm just going in with my Stabilo All pencil and drawing some light wavy lines. And then I'm going in with my pen and just writing straight over the top. So this is a technique I like to use a lot when I want the words to be read, but I also want it to sort of blend into the picture somewhat. So you can sort of see by the way I'm writing, it's still readable, but it's actually becoming like texture or pattern work in the background rather than actual journaling. So it blends in just that little bit more. The good thing about this too is if you can't quite fit a word in, you can go over to the other side and it really sort of just blends in as one block. If you're really good with judging how much you can write and how little or big you can write, you can get in the bits you want. I think I just wrote the last verse of our last stanza of the poem in this, so I could get down to the word nevermore and have that in the last line as a nice big focus for the page. But I really liked how this writing around it sort of helped tie in with that grungy page. It gives a little bit of darkness to that page. You've got that splatter over the top, and it just ties everything together really, really nicely. So such a simple page, but really, really effective. And it's just 2 collage sheets and some poetry written over the top. So it's worthwhile having a look at what you've got and how you can combine them. That girl in particular was one with stars and moon background, never would have thought to put her with that, and when I put them together it's like they're a match made in heaven. So just think outside the box occasionally and you'll be surprised what you come up with. Thanks for watching, and until next time, bye for now.